At 15 years and 302 days old, Max Dowman became not only the youngest ever player to start for Arsenal, but the youngest ever player of a Premier League club to start in any competition. And in Arsenal's 2-0 win in the EFL Cup against Brighton, it's not a stretch to say that Max Dowman was Arsenal's biggest threat on the pitch, and it's not the first time that we've said that this season. Bonkers. Now, there is a way to scout, to analyse, to just talk about someone who was just 423 days old when Arsenal lost in the EFL Cup final to Birmingham on that scarring day in 2011. And that's why I've held on to these scouting notes for so long. But his performance against Brighton has given me just the excuse to transpose them into video form. So, with that, here's why Max Dowman is already terrifyingly good at just 15, and why we've only seen just the start. Welcome back to the Harvey Gratian YouTube channel. I'm so glad you found us or are joining us once again. And for the first time, I had the chance to watch Dowman live against Brighton. Arteta described Max's reaction to being selected as merely a wry smile. And this unfussy reaction tells you a lot about Max as a person and a footballer. He understands the importance of the environment and timing needed for a youngster, but there's a subtle knowingness in there that whenever he does get his opportunities, he's ready to pull up a few trees with it and terrorise already some Premier League level athletes. The same way a talent like Lewis-Skelly kind of hits you in the face with his power carries that stomp, shrug and propel him up the pitch. Max, of course, has so much development ahead of him, but he gives you the sense that he's fully formed already. This is something singular to the Hale Enders, I feel. This was Max in pre-season against Newcastle. Look already at how he's prepared himself for someone trying to fly through the back of him when he's receiving a bobbling pass. He's already leaning into target to pin him. He's happy to grapple and gain a yard, and once he's spun you in this yard and is facing you like this, he gets into stride, Max, so effortlessly that you're instantly, as a defender, put at this uncomfortable distance where, with each touch, Max is gaining momentum, building rhythm, and as the sequence here plays out and Max dances inside and surges, and one of the Premier League's premier beasts, Joelinton, shoves him over for a penalty, it shows that physicality, as many call it, of course, is an innate thing, but I think there's so much craft and technique to that too. Let's use Dowman's performance against Brighton as a better way of understanding his talent. As I said, this was literally the excuse for me to put this into video form. There's core strength, balance, physical maturity, yes, but look at the craft and technique for how he sets himself up for the inevitable contact here. Dowman's dribbling style is similarly unique. His first action that probably lifted everyone out of their seats came here. A drop of the shoulder, surge, and almost a burst through this little gap. You see there's a little bit of violence in the carry when he's at full tilt too, which is a lovely blend when you add this to the ridiculous levels of technique and control and his sort of easy on the eye nature. Transfer market has Dowman bang on 6 foot, and if Waneri dribbles with that unique shuffly choppy motion, Dowman has those much longer legs which allow him to glide with that breezy directness and hold himself pretty upright too. But where he becomes so one of a kind for me is that in spite of all this length and height, he feels like he plays low. He plays so low to the ground. This is part of the reason of how he can look like this on a first touch. Remember how I spoke about Madueke having that urgency to claim the space immediately if the fullback isn't touched tight? Dowman has that sense of, I want to make something happen now, too, with those same long legs which backpedal the defenders into this sort of neither nor distance, but he then has the ability and the ball literally on a string to brush past you like this, especially if he baits that first jump from the defender. I talk about hips a lot in dribblers, and by keeping his open and smooth, Dowman keeps his intentions neutral. When you watch Dowman at full speed, You blink and you've missed him ducking inside a defender. It's because he makes everything look like the same movement, if that makes sense. To change direction, all he needs to do is slightly tilt one way or the other. There's not a kind of contortion of his whole body, which is why he operates, I think, with that deceptive casualness. But as I said, there's a real violence when he breaks through a team as well, and his surging carries, I'm talking 50, 60, 70-yard carries. This is what we're going to see more and more of, not just that 1v1 repeatability and relentlessness. Watch where some of these sequences start and finish, and they come from all possible angles on the pitch. I've spoken about how the best dribblers seem to tag you along in their stride, and over these bigger distances, it's like Dowman's breezing whilst the others have to sprint and exert extra energy past him. Dowman waits for his man, or men, to overcompensate, and he's away. At Arsenal, there has been an emphasis in the summer of recruiting players who finish these long runs with shots and with power. Eze, Madueke, Gyökeres. Dowman maintains control too, and this speaks to what we are yet to see of him in real first team action. The eye-catching stuff is of course in his violent glides and subtle feints, I get that, but this is a player who ends sequences with killer passes and cleanly struck shots, who only needs a small backlift or invitation to let one rip, someone who can attract and open up a game from deeper, or just ping passes and hit runners. What's also true is that playing above age groups and playing against players who do not want to let a youngster breeze by them, Max has been kicked around a lot. At the beginning, I used Arteta's quote about how Max takes things with a wry smile. I would say that that's true when he's being kicked from pillar to post, because it never makes him more hesitant or huddle when he's receiving back to goal or anywhere less immediate in his actions. But he's got this ferocious streak in his game to add to everything that he makes so effortless that is on show here. This was in the summer against the Spanish under-19 side, and I won't get into details because it's frankly embarrassing how Spain just went to put Max on the floor. Max is undoubtedly quick as a player, but he's another one you wouldn't describe as necessarily sprinter fast, but as soon as he gets the ball, he hits top speed immediately. And when we scouted Eze, it was all about forcing a block to backpedal without wanting to commit. Dowman surges into these contact zones. In other words, he pushes you back as far as possible and then gets so close that you're forced to try and intervene. And when he's tilting left and right, either way at these sort of high speeds with the ball on a string, eventually you're going to have to bite, and you're going to have to be, I think, really special physically to not be overwhelmed by him as he grows and gets older. You know, I will forgive him for being brushed off the ball by Carlos Baleba against Brighton. The referee finally gives the left back a yellow card on this instance, but later it's the same flowing movement, but he drags the ball back down the line, already a signature that he's used for winning penalties, baiting that engagement before scooping the ball away. He sort of dangles it like a carrot in front of the defender's eyes. Pivoting back to his Brighton performance though, I thought his awareness and connection with Ben White was also very encouraging. This is a guy, Max Dowman, who, unsurprisingly throughout youth level, has been the mantle of responsibility. And yes, White makes it, I think, easy for anyone to play with him, with the variety of his passing, the outside option on the overlap he gives. But in pre-season as well, we saw Dowman slowing the game down, playing a pedal off full tilt, waiting for White and bringing him in. Against Brighton, his reverse balls for White were superbly weighted, and I think it's easy to get caught up with that dribbling, but with Max, he's not a one-pace guy. Sometimes you need that, and I think Madueke has really brought the best side of that to our attack before he got injured. But although we are not going to get caught up in the development criteria for someone who is 15, to already have that tempo change, I think, to set the pace on your own terms and feel like, even though you are 15, you don't have to go just to stay alive or to survive in the match, is a key detail that's probably been overlooked so far. I also want to finish with one word, and that is responsibility. Against Brighton, Max felt like our best route to goal, as I've mentioned. Mikel brought him on when we were chasing a goal at Anfield too. Max gave us the spark against a familiar foe in Newcastle in pre-season. Taking responsibility isn't just about being the guy though. It's about having a trust and a security in the teammates around you, in the environment around you, that empower you to show off your ideas and your energy, but in a way that fits with the surrounding dynamics. And with the family that Max seems to have around him, with the culture that's been bedded in at Arsenal, the comprehensive pathway that's been laid out in steps for Max, with Declan Rice and Ben White as mentors, Arteta being very aware of what is a healthy level of exposure for a 15-year-old and what is perhaps indulgent and actually what is counterproductive to someone who is still learning, Max Dowman is in the best place in the world to discover the potential that we are all so excited about. There should be no rush imposed on him, and although I've made this video now, a bit of patience, allowing Max to arrive in increments and eventually arrive at a place where he can be unleashed, feels like the best place to be. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe if you have. I'll get chatting to you in the comments as always down below, but I will see you very, very shortly. Bye for now.